SharePoint and Power Automate. Massive thanks go out to our sponsors, our conference sponsor Beam, our track sponsors AvePoint, Concurrency, Knowledge Worker Components, Magnetic, PointFire, RSM, Teams Hub by Cyclotron. Thank you for the support. What the heck is a digital transformation? It means something to almost everyone. You hear it thrown around with terms like cloud, big data, modern teamwork, but could digital and technological advances really have an impact on your work? My name is Norm Young, and I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP. In this 15-minute session, I'll show you how it's possible to digitally transform a manual process into a modern online solution where resources are centralized and manual tasks are automated. Best of all, you don't need IT and you already have the tools that you need. SharePoint and Power Automate will be showcased using out-of-the-box functionality and a no-code maker approach to digital transformation. SharePoint and Power Automate are better together. Lists are great for storing and collaborating on business data for teams. When combined with the dozens of Power Automate triggers and actions, lists, SharePoint become a legitimate solution for pro devs and makers alike. When there is no app for that scenario, lists and SharePoint and Power Automate can be used to develop solutions when business processes have been left behind from large application implementations. I'm not suggesting that lists are a high-end database. They shouldn't be used for highly complex workloads. Things like the Common Data Services or Azure SQL Server, they should be used when users. Lists should be used when users and business processes have opportunities to add value through centralization and automation. Bear with me. So our scenario is based on a situation that I encountered multiple times working in higher education, a university exchange agreement process that is managed by a single user using an Excel spreadsheet from their desktop PC. And unfortunately, agreements have expired in the past, and this has been a 100% manual process with zero insights for other users. And the catalyst for change is that the exchange agreements have been taken over by a larger team. The team is new to SharePoint and Office 365. And they need reminder messages ahead of agreement expiration so that they have an opportunity to start the renewal process prior to expiration. They would like different owners to the agreement so they can share the workload. And they would like the ability to view and share status updates. The team wants basic insights by country, simple inbound and outbound student headcount totals, and the ability to quickly view any expired agreements. Let's get straight into the demos, and we're going to be building for the rest of the session. Before I do that, feel free to come off mute and ask any questions that you might like. It's hard for me to watch the chat window, so if you have a raised hand, I probably won't see it, but by all means, come off mute and interrupt. And thank you for attending. So I'm in my Office 365 tenant. I'm clicking on SharePoint, and I'm going to create a new Office 365 group. This will be our user's new digital home. And I'm going to call this M365 Chicago. Okay, and that's finished. And we've just taken a massive step forward for our users who are not used to the cloud. They now have their own place, and this Office 365 group is going to grow with them. And so we'll see that this group and later in the demo with Power Automate will be the glue that binds our solution together. And so I said at the beginning through the scenario that they're managing all of the exchange agreements through an Excel workbook. We're going to take that Excel and use that as the basis for our list and our business process. So I'm going to minimize my Office 365 screen, I'm going to open up the Excel spreadsheet that they provided to us. And there's one simple thing that I need to do to this Excel list to move it into SharePoint as a list, and that is to format it as a table. I will maximize, I'm going to click my top cell, format as table, done. This will give the opportunity for the list import engine to interrogate the metadata, the columns in the list, and do an import. So I'll just simply save. If I needed to do, or if I had any concerns about data quality, this would be a great time to go through and start inspecting that data to make sure I have clean data coming in. But for this, the data is good. We have the list has been formatted as a table. Now I'm going to jump back into my site. I'm going to go into documents and upload that file so it's available for the list creation process. I'm going to upload my file from my desktop. And now it's available. So I'm going to simply click home. I love this new feature that landed earlier in the year. I'm going to click New from the home page, List, and I'm going to choose from Excel. It's found it in the Documents folder. I'll check that and I'll click Next. And now it's interrogating the file to understand the metadata of the columns behind it. It sees the table that we created, and then it starts by listing all of the columns that are in the spreadsheet. And now it's up to us to make sure that we're mapping the Excel columns to a list column type that makes sense. The first field is school, and that is essentially a unique identifier, if you will, or a identifier in this case, because there might be more than one exchange agreement. And we'll leave that as title, and that will map out nicely in the SharePoint side. The exchange type, we'll notice quickly that these look to be lookup values, choice values. So we'll flip this from a single line of text to choice. And now we see some funny stuff. We got these weird numbers associated with all of the date columns. These are being interpreted as dates from Excel, as numbers from Excel, but they're actually dates. So if we flip that to date and time, we get a more appropriate data value. So I'll continue that for my other date columns. Let me just scroll over to the right and see what else we have here. End date, again, another date and time. Owner, this is clearly a person. There's no provision to do this yet in the list import with Excel. So for now, we're going to leave this as a single line of text, and we'll address that later. We want to address it later because, as you probably know, within SharePoint, List, Office 365, the person includes all of that Azure Active Directory information that we'll want to leverage with Power Automate to make life easier for our Exchange Agreements team. So just going to scroll over, make sure there's nothing else that could be a choice or anything else. These numbers are fine. Country, excellent to be a choice. City, same thing. Click Next. We'll give it a simple name. Exchange. I can spell. And we'll include this in the site navigation, and we'll click Create. If anyone remembers older versions of SharePoint, we would have to install that Excel import app that sometimes would work, sometimes wouldn't work, depending on what web browser you were using. Or perhaps you were one of the poor souls who had to handcraft these lists by hand and then go through some type of manual data import process. This simplifies things so much. We have given our users a new digital home. We've brought their data. It's online. We've already started checking off all of those requirement boxes. We're centralized, we're online, and we're in a place that people have insights and can start working from. So we have our list. It's online. It's great. Now, we have to keep in mind that our users are new to Microsoft 365 and SharePoint. They come to this Office 365 group site, and it's confusing to them. It's like a modern art masterpiece. It's got pictures and web parts and junk and clutter everywhere. And what I want to do is to use a simplicity of design when we're creating these solutions and sites for the users so they're not overwhelmed. So how do we do that? We get rid of the clutter. We're not limiting them. We're not taking away functionality. What we're doing is just giving them quickest path to their data as they make this journey to the cloud. I'm going to add a simple text box and a welcome message that I'll copy and paste from this other screen. This will let them know where they are and what the purpose of the site is. And I'm also going to add a button. This button, again, is just to call out where they need to focus their time and energy when they come to the site. So this is going to be Exchange. And this is a pointer right to the list that we've created. So what I'm trying to do is to make life easy for them when they come to the site, and only to present them what they need today. As they grow more confident with the site, more confident with Microsoft 365, these types of changes will help with their adoption. So that looks good, and I think we'll just the draft. Then we'll come back to the quick links. So there's something I want to do there later. And I'm going to get rid of all this crazy stuff on the left nav as well. They don't need conversations today. They probably don't need notebooks or to know about pages. What they do need to know is how to get to the site and what they need to do. This will grow with them. When they've outgrown this site, they can add more functionality. They can move to Microsoft Teams. They can teamify things. We've made a solid investment in their initial step into the site. We could even do things, or we'll probably just leave it to them. We could change the look for them and give them something that maybe is a more appealing look and view and things of that nature that will help the users make this feel like it's their own. It's not, some fancy WordPress site or something like that, but it's their home. When they come in, they see what they need, the Exchange list, and to know where they're at. So again, we've used that Office 365 group as their new digital home. It'll glue everything together for us down the road. We got rid of all the clutter. We just want simple experience, and that simplicity of design will hopefully decrease the delivery time and increase the user adoption. So the next part that we're going to jump into is that we have to understand the business process and find opportunities to add value. And we're going to do that by adding some new columns and updating some existing ones. So we'll hop into the lists. So many updates to lists. We've probably heard about the Microsoft Lists application, which is its own dedicated app within M365, but it's still pointing back to the SharePoint backend. But there's been like a year and a half worth of list modernization activities by our friends at Microsoft to really bring up all of these usability feature and updates into lists, and it's fantastic. The one I use all the time, and it's one that I think most business users can appreciate, is the simple expand content to give them that spreadsheet view, the spreadsheet experience that they already know. So I'm just going to pop into there so I can get a little more real estate. And so our users had asked, and as a requirement, to know when an agreement was active or expired. So we're going to add a status column. It's amazing that we can just come into a list, press the add button, and now we have the opportunity to create these new columns. If this was a year and a half ago, we'd be going into list settings, and it would be much more of a site owner, site collection administrator task than it would be a power user task. So now we're able to create the column from the list experience, and we can see we're already getting all of these updates that didn't exist a number of months ago. And so we've got this choice, and I'm already going to apply column formatting. And I want to reflect the business process in the status column. So my values will be active. And I'm going to change that color to green. And then the other one is expired. So if the agreement has gone past the date, then this reflects bad on the business process. So we'll make the green for good, red for bad. Done. Amazing. So much time to be saved with commands and functionality that our users coming from the Excel world will know. And so I'm going to go into the grid view, which was once called Quick Edit, and I'm just going to backfill these values. And so I can do this wonderful drag and drop, and I'm saving myself time and I'm saving my users time. And if you notice on the left side of the screen, we have this vertical bar. Now it's turning into spinning. That's like the activity, the processing, and it's resolving all of those commands. So I've added the status column. I'm going to come out of grid view. Excellent. And I'm going to address the owner. If you recall, we imported it as a single line of text. We have no ability to leverage that with anything within Power Automate. So what we're going to do is change that into a person column. So I'm going to click Add New Column. I'll choose the person type. I'm going to give it a new name, Owner New. I'm going to click Save. And I'm going to jump back into grid view, and I'm going to backfill these values. In the real world, it wouldn't always be one owner, but for the purposes of this demo, I'm taking the fast way out and I'm putting in my own name, and I'm just going to click enter, and that is resolved. And now I can repeat that drag and drop backfill process. And it's resolving. You'll see some hashtag Norm Young as it's figuring out what the account is and who I am. And then boom, it's done. We'll see on the left-hand side, the processing's done. I'm going to exit out of grid view again so I don't accidentally screw something up. I don't need this owner column anymore, so I'm just going to edit and delete. All of this is done from the front end of list, which again, a year and a half ago, this was not the case. And I'm going to rename this to give it the name that my users expect. So I keep bringing up these things like, a year and a half ago, back in my day, it was different. But really what we're seeing is just these small improvements, these marginal gains that Microsoft is doing to modernize the list experience to really bring down that barrier for users. So I'm so happy to see the list app come out of SharePoint as its own application in Microsoft 365, because I do believe that it will help to eliminate the confusion with users between Teams and SharePoint communication sites and lists and all of this stuff. Lists, business data, business processes, automation. Like, it's a wonderful platform, and it's one we're at. So now we've added the person column type to our new owner field, and now we have some opportunities to leverage that later. Our users also want the ability to keep each other updated on each renewal in each step. So we'll add a simple comments column. And to do that, we'll use multiple lines of text, and we'll just call this comments. Yep, and that is good. So we've added things that reflected the needs that they wanted to bring into the business process. But now we have to find value, and where we find value are opportunities for automation. So you will notice that there are two columns, one called total students, which is a simple addition of the inbound and outbound students, and balance, which is a simple subtraction. We can do better. We can make this mundane task go away, and we'll do that, by creating calculated SharePoint columns. So for that, I'm going to go into settings, list settings. I'm going to create a new column. I can't do this from the front end yet, but maybe we will one day. And this will be total students. We'll call this new. And I'm going to choose calculated. And this will just flip the screen and give me the formula bar. And this will equal inbound plus outbound. And I'll be sure to change the data type to number. And I'll click OK. I'm going to repeat the same thing and do the balance column, create column, balance new, calculated column, and this flips. Here we go. And this will equal, very simple, and very simple by design. In this demo, I don't want to do anything crazy, but you could do serious calculations in here. Right, so that is done. While I'm in list settings, or the back end of the list, if you recall, they wanted the ability to view the agreements by country or geography. So we're going to create them a new SharePoint view. I'm going to create view. And while that's taking time to come up, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. And we're going to start by using the existing all items view. We'll give this a new name. And what we're going to do to achieve these simple insights by country is to look to the group by option. We're going to group all of the agreements by country and then further by city. That's good enough. So here, it's very simple, but this is the insights that they need. A quick way to look to say, how many agreements do we have with Belgium? Oh, we have 2. Where are they in Belgium? One is in Brussels, one is in Leuven. How many do we have in Germany? Well, we have one in Mannheim, one in Munich, and one in Reitlingen, if that's how you say it. Simple, out of the box, meets requirements. Awesome. Well, I'm on the front end. I'm going to flip back to all items. And I just want to do a little bit of cleanup. We've added 2 new columns, and by default, they get appended to the back of the list, but we're just going to move them. And the reason why I do this is another usability improvement for Microsoft Lists, where I can drag and drop columns around inside of the list experience without having to go back into list settings. If you've ever tried to order columns in a view in a widescreen monitor where the column name is over to the left and the column numbering menu buttons are over to the right, it's enough to drive you nuts. This is something that I enjoy because it doesn't make me go crazy. So I don't need the total students new anymore. We'll delete that column. We'll get rid of balance. This serves no purpose anymore because we're using our calculated column. And I'm just going to rename them. Again, I'm just doing this to make the usability for my users is good and as much of what they expect as possible. Excuse me. Rename. Excellent. Very good. Okay, so we have some new columns to reflect the business process. We found some value in the total students and balance by creating calculated columns. We have this wonderful column view formatting that we're seeing on the status column. And so now we're going to grab the column formatting that we did in status and apply it to the end date, so we can visually draw attention to the values there to let them know that things have expired or not. So I'm going into the menu, which is the little drop-down chevron, column settings, format this column, and I'm presented with this really nice user experience, almost a wizard type thing that you can click your way through and configure. A year and a half ago, you would have to go to GitHub or some other repository, grab the raw JSON code, and apply it. It wasn't the end of the world if you were a pro dev or an IT end user. This is such a wonderful thing to do. And the thing that I'm trying to show is that all of this functionality is out of the box, and there shouldn't be anything considered here as developer or IT. This is empowerment to our users. Yes, they might need an adoption specialist like yourself to come in and show them the way, but this is teaching them to fish and to provide from themselves, if you will. So I'm going to conditional formatting, and I'm going to, and for now it says show all values as. Well, I'm going to edit this rule, and I'm going to simply say, if the end date is on or before, and I'll say today, let's do something to draw visual attention to it. So we'll make, we'll give it, I don't know, a burgundy color. We'll say that this is an error warning. We'll move it over here. We'll do this. We'll give. We'll make whatever we can do to make this stand out. The idea is not to make it look pretty. The idea is to draw attention so people can action that quick insight by looking at something. Excuse me. Right. So we're going to do another column formatting. Our business process, our users have told us that the negative balance values are not something they aspire to. They always want positive. So we're going to draw visual attention to anything that's minus, but it will not be in the same format as that. We'll use a different way of doing it. And so we'll go back to our friend conditional formatting, and we're going to edit the show all values as to say if balance, there you are, if you are greater than 0, because that's what we're striving for, we always want to have more students out than in, then we're going to say more styles, and we're going to give this the up. We're going to turn this to green. We're going to make it bold, and it's going to stand out. And I think maybe we will borders again, and green and dashy things. And so that really stands out. That looks awesome. We'll close that. We're going to go back and make one more rule because you can have multiple rules. And it'll be similar, except this time we're going to target the negative one. So balance is less than 0. And let's get in here and do the more styles business again. This time we're going for the red. Well, I guess that's burgundy. Fill color, no fill color. Actually, we'll just do gray. Excuse me. And again, I'm just simply repeating. And so what we should see, sorry, I didn't mean to change the, I meant to change the fill color. Excuse me. Too dark. But I think you get the point that I'm going after. There we go. My colors are wrong. There it is. Save. I'm lost in a sea of colors right now. But we can apply simple business rules, and this will help inform our users' decisions about where they spend their time. And it's another marginal gain. It's another 0.5% or 1% that they don't have to invest in looking up values, and they know that, hey, pressure's off with this particular school, pressure's on with the school at the top. Our users also said, excuse me, that they want simple totals. They want simple counts, and we can do this right within the list experience. They need to know how many exchange agreements do they have. Well, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to go to totals, and I'm going to say count it. And we'll give this a second, and we'll see that we have 29 schools counted in our agreement. And now I'm going to go to inbound and outbound because they were always curious to know how many students are coming in and how many students are going out. So I'm going back to the chevron, I'm dropping it down to totals, and this time I'm going to sum. And you'll see that within the options, we have some opportunities to do other types of calculations. Click that. Now we know that there's 427 students coming inbound. Same step, I'm going to sum outbound, and now we have 391. So I think I have a Teams message. No, sorry, folks. Not sure why that was flashing, but it was flashing nonetheless. And so now we have this, what is the makings of a solution in the data? The data is the most important piece to the business process, but they need a way to collaborate centrally. They need a way to find value. We need to show them the value in these solutions. And so the last thing that I'm going to do while I'm in the list is to simplify how they do additions and edits. So I'm going to click new item, and this brings up the default list form for new and adds. And If you ever wanted to customize this in the past, you were going to go into Power Apps, and well, that's great if you're a Power Platform enthusiast or a pro dev using Power Apps, but that's not really for everyone. Our users are new to this. They just need to see what they need to see. We get rid of the clutter to make it an easier and more enjoyable experience for them. So now within the same list experience, I just simply click Edit Columns, and I have the ability to move things around. So the balance is no longer required. The owner, perhaps they want to move it up further, or status goes under here. Like, we can rearrange these things for them, or perhaps I just get rid of the status and they are not able to see it. And so when they come in, they're only seeing the data that they need to see. And we have data consistency through our lookup program, lookup columns. We have, calendar widgets and things like that that will do data consistency, that will make it easier for them for entering new agreements. And then again, this is all part of standardizing, making life easier, and that's what these types of things do. So let me come out of the Mac screen, and I'm going to click Home. Our users want not simply to come to the cloud to work on a spreadsheet. They want new ways of working. Let's face it, people help people. We need to give them some guidance, some hand-holding along the way. So to do that, we're going to do two things. We're going to introduce them to Yammer for direct support with the IT team or whoever the team is that is facilitating this type of work. It's not to be a short circuit to traditional IT support. It's to give them a barrier-free, safe space to build their own knowledge community with help with people like us, and that over time they will wean themselves off of that. We're going to give them new tools to work better together. Perhaps some of these exchange agreements are more complicated than the others, so we'll use something like Planner. So in the background, we have created, let me find Yammer. Let me open up all apps and I'll just show it before we jump in. Got a lot of stuff going on here. I'll show Planner first. Here it is. Planner board up for them. They can, start managing their work in a more modern way that's centralized. So I'm copying the link. I'm going to edit my site page, and I'm going to add a link for them. Yes, we could probably add a Planner web part or just tell them to go to Planner to get a better experience. But our users are new to all of this. We're bringing stuff to their digital home to make it easier for them to adopt the cloud. As their maturity, as their comfort level continues to grow, maybe they'll remove these links. One of the things I want to do is to start developing some brand identification for them, or brand awareness, not to advertise Microsoft, but they'll start to know that, okay, Planner, I'm using that icon. All right, so I did Planner. Now I want to show Yammer, which is going to be the simple place, safe place for our users where they can get the direct support. And I promise you, over time, this starts to reduce. People become more confident. They use Yammer for the ability to ask questions and get answers and to build their own knowledge repositories. So I'm going to create one more link. As much as we would like to just have a bot or a PDF or a video that takes care of all the adoption for us, that's never the case. People help people, and it might start with you in IT, and then it might move down to the users helping their colleagues, but that's probably how it's going to work, and that's probably a great way to improve the adoption. All right, so we've got Yammer, we've got Planner, we've got our list data done. I'll publish, and again, they have what they need. They have quick access to the list. There's data's there. They have quick visual insights as to where they should be spending their time and what they need to focus on. we have counts, we have insights, we have all of these little abilities. Nothing has been what I would consider a stretch for them to do. So what I want to do now is to get into some automation, and we'll do that using Power Automate. I'm going to back into my list. I'm clicking Automate, and I'm going to go into Power Automate now and see my flows. And so what we want to achieve at the end of the flow is to mark those agreements that have expired, to say expired in the status, and to give them a 30-day reminder email. So I'll zoom in just so you can see the screen a bit more. I'll click New, and I'm going to create a scheduled flow from blank. And we'll just call this M365 Exchange Daily. And this is going to run every day at 10 a.m. Great. I'm going to click New Step, and the first thing we're going to do is to reach out and find out which columns have expired. So I'll do SharePoint Get Items as our first action. Select this. I'm going to rename it because I'm going to have multiple get items and I don't want names that don't mean anything to me. So expired. And I need to get the URL. I'll need this. Sorry about the jumping around, folks. I'm going to enter a custom value and put in my site name. And then I'm going to select list from the dropdown, and we should see Exchange. I'm going to use the show advanced options. And I'm going to do a filter query using OData. So in this case, I'm looking for end date. Sorry, lost focus. Is less than or equal to, and I'm doing two single quotes. Very small on the screen, I'm sure, but in between them, I'm going to put in an expression. So my expression window opens up, and I'm going to use the UTC now command, which if you're a SQL Server person is the to a get date, and I'm going to format this in a date format that works for me. And I'm going to say OK, and we'll see now that the expression is inside of those single quotes. I'm going to save my flow, and I think this is incredibly important. There's two things that I've done that I'll do throughout the flow, and I hope that you do something similar when you're creating flows, and that is to give some type of comment. This gets expired, or rename it in a way that you're able to come back and the other users on your team are able to come back into the flow to understand what's going on. And the next piece is to test as you go. Don't build a whole complicated flow, run it and expect it to be error-free. Take an iterative approach, be agile. And so that's what we're going to do. If there's 10 steps, I'm going to run this thing 10 times. So I've got green, successful. I will check for results. Granted, the output from a flow is like, you can't really read this, but you can tell there's data in there. So that's good. I know that has worked. So I'm going to do another action. It'll be a SharePoint action, and we're going to use this action to point update item. And it's going to update the items that have expired to the status column to now say expired. So update item. I'm going to use my list, sorry, my site, which is M365 Chicago. I'm going to go into Exchange, and when I click ID and put the value in, it's going to flip this action into a loop container, if you will, to hit all of the records that we did. So it's looking for an ID column, and we're getting it from the get items expired, which is the preceding action. I click OK, and we see that it's flipped to each. I'm just going to rename this so I don't get confused. I'm going to update this so I don't get confused or lost when I come back to this later in time. I'm going to expand the update item because I actually have to set the the values that I'm going to change. So in this case, I want to change the status, this column, from active to expired when the date is passed. So status value, and you just manually select it to expired. I will save this, and I'll do another test. That's running, and we'll come back over to the list, and we'll see that things are starting to flip to expired. And so this is one thing our users don't have to worry about. We hit the end date and it's passed. We're going to set it to expired. Visual indicators as to what's next. So that's great. Now the next thing that we want to do is to send reminders so they have an opportunity to intervene before the agreements do expire. So to do that, we need an anchor date, and our anchor date we're going to do to create using a variable. So variable will be our next action, and we're going to initialize a variable. I'm going to call this thing var reminder date, if I can spell. This will be we'll do a string. And then my value is going to be another expression. It's going to be, we're adding 30 days to the end date. So we'll say add days. And then we're going to go to our friend UTC now. So today's date, 30 days. And then I'm going to format it again. So month, day. I believe that is good. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to test. And when we have our reminder date, I'm just going to do update one of the list entries so we can actually get a trigger. So this thing will say any agreement that is expiring on December 13th, let's send a reminder email. So let's go to the University of South Australia, and we'll say the end date is going to be 20, what was that? 12, 13. Oh, screwed that one up. All right. Let's hop back into our flow. So we've got, we've mocked up a test. So we have something that we can go from for the rest of this demo. We're going to do another get items action. So this is SharePoint again. Get items. And this will be for our reminders. I'm going into my site. I'm going to, sorry, I have to scroll down a bit. Sorry about that. Paste in my custom site URL. It's only doing that because it's pre-populated all my other ones. I'm going to go back to my filter query, and the end date again, the equal to, or EQ, single quotes again, so important to get those single quotes. And I'm going to use the variable value that we created. I'm going to save and test. Make sure I get a value back before we go on to the next action. Click to download. I wish there was a better way of viewing this data, but that's how it comes. Edit. Now we're getting into the real business now. We have just a couple more things to do, and then we've gotten some great automation added to our solution that we're building out for our users. So we're going to send an email this time. I'm going to rename it. It's because it's going to potentially affect many users or owners. In our case, it's going to throw it into a loop once we add the owner field. So add dynamic content. I'm going to search for owner, and we'll see that we have get items reminders. But if we scroll down, we also get items expired. So here's the value in renaming your actions to something meaningful. If I were to use get owner from the expired, well, they're getting emails about things that have already expired. It's too late. So in this case, I'm getting it from the get items reminders action. So that's the data set that comes back. And I'm using the owner's email. So boom, that flips into the loop. We're going to change this to reminders again. And this is an email action, and you can throw as much formatting and dynamic data is available to you as you see fit. But for me, I'm just going to say something simple. Exchange agreement is expiring soon, and I'll say the school name, which is title, reminders, and then we can come in, and again, we can format this to the nth degree. I'm just going to say reminder, bold it. I'm just going to cheat. I'm going to cut and paste this bad boy. And again, you can add in all the values. So we're saying like single quotes and agreement type, I think it was called, exchange agreement type, exchange. Sorry, folks, talking out loud. Value goes in there, and expire date is equal to end date reminders, and I can throw in a link to the item so our users don't have to go hunting around for it. Reminders link to item, and we've, with this little simple task, just sending an email, but it's an intelligent email. It's got it's data driven. It allows them to take action and intervene before the agreement fails, and then ultimately their business process fails. So it's run successfully. If I go into my email, we should see the message from them, and we'll see the exchange agreements is expiring soon, and I've got data in my email. I could have taken more time to craft a better message and make this, a clickable link. That's all like HTML stuff, and we don't have to worry about it because it's just a demo. But I've got, that action happening on behalf of my users. They don't have to think about it. They just have to check their email, which they're doing anyway. So the last thing that our users wanted was to be aware of what actions or work was being done on agreements. So we're going to simply update that comments column that we created at the outset, just to say, we've sent an update. Sent an update to the owner, the assigned owner, and they're aware of it. And if there's something else happening inside of their, well, that doesn't look good. If they have something else going on, maybe someone's on vacation, maybe someone's left the company, that it gives them an opportunity to see what's happening. And hopefully agreements don't get slipped. They don't have to think about what's going on. And we'll just simply put in some text. Reminder email sent to, and I can just put the owners. So this is a great thing about making the effort to change your previous owner column from single string to the person column. I get their claims information, their display name, the email, the picture, all of this stuff I can leverage out of Azure Active Directory. So I'm just going to click in their display name on, and I can say, I can throw an expression in, UTC now. It gets a lot of love in this demo. We'll format it so it's pretty. and save, test, and we're done. And our people have just come through a digital transformation for something that was once sitting on someone's desktop and things were getting lost. So just going to quickly slide over and we'll see, hey, there's our comment. Here it is. Here we go. So where's my slide deck? You can do it. So what did we do? We updated text columns to choice, so we were allowing for consistent data entry. We added status owner's comment column to show the current state of the agreement and assign ownership to the renewal process. We made that important switch for the owner to a person column that gives us more opportunities to add automation using Power Automate. We use calculated columns to automate some very simple. We used views to provide basic insights by country. We have the inbound and outbound student headcount totals. We used column formatting to quickly view the expired agreements and draw visual attention to where they need to action their efforts. We understood the business processes and we found opportunities to add value. We used Power Automate to identify and make the agreements expired when they reach their end date. We also use Power Automate to send reminder messages to agreement owners 30 days out from expiration to allow them a chance to renew before the deadline. We've created that digital home using Office 365 and Office 365 groups, and given them some direct support using Yammer, showing them some new tools that aren't overwhelming that will hopefully help them work better together and have a higher rate of collaboration, and using Planner. And our solution was zero development time. We really probably only spent 40 minutes on the keyboard putting this together. And I imagine you have users in your own organizations that could benefit from this type of transformation. Please, if you would like to ask me any questions now or later, that's totally fine. I'm just going to check into the chat window to see if there's anything there. If there's not, I do want to say thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. It's very much appreciated. COVID has not been the nicest experience in the world, but it gives people like me who don't live anywhere near Chicago the opportunity to come visit with you virtually, and I appreciate being here. Thank you so much for attending. I hope that your event is awesome. I hope that you have an opportunity to get some real value and hopefully make some real connections out there despite this all being virtual. The organizers have done an amazing job behind the scenes. I can't tell you how well this event has come together and how effortless it has been to participate in. If you would like to reach out and connect with me, I would like to as well. You can find me on a number of ways. My personal blog site is .ca. That's right, I'm a Canadian. You can find me at LinkedIn at Norm-Young or on Twitter at Stormin_30. If you are willing and you would like to give some speaker and event feedback, please use the scanner thing there, or please go into this URL, which I'll put in the chat window, to provide speaker and event feedback. That's it for now. I'm going to hang out online and make myself available should you have any questions. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And the organizing team for the M365 Chicago, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day, everyone.